He has recently come to be known as the person behind Ghana's digitization agenda. He's an economist and a former banker. In today's CNBC Africa special, we sit down with the country's Vice President, His Excellency Mahamudu Bawumia. Now, if you want to be part of this conversation, tweet us at CNBC Africa or tag me directly at The Real Kwizera. When it comes to the digitization process, why is it at heart for you?
Well, thank you very much. I think that for us, in terms of the strategy that we've adopted for economic transformation of this country, we see digitization as a major instrument and enabler for transformation. And why do I say so? We've inherited a system, and Ghana is not the only country. I think it's very consistent across the continent. We've inherited a system that doesn't seem to work for the ordinary person on the street. There seems to be this disconnect between government machinery on the one hand and the lives of ordinary people on the other. And when you look at that system, you'd see that we have been living with problems for a very long time since independence. We talk about a highly informal, society. We talk about a society without identity. We talk about a society where you don't have address systems that are functional, where you have financial exclusion and people don't have, where you cannot mobilize domestic revenue or taxation because it's difficult to do so. People don't file, properties are not taxed, and so on. And you have a high interest rate environment. And so there is this system that we have been dealing with since independence. And we pose the question, why is it after all these successive governments that we've had since independence, after all the IMF programs and after all the World Bank programs and foreign aid and all of that, the system that underlies or underpins economic activity has remained the same, or in some cases gotten worse. And so we thought that we needed to build a new system that works for the ordinary man, a system that addresses these very challenges that I've been talking about. And we thought that the digital path, the path for digital transformation through digitization is the best way to do that. And so you are looking at how do you solve the problems of people in the rural areas, for example, who cannot get access to medical supplies because of where they live. Or you are talking about people who are trying to interact with government, to apply for a passport, to apply for a driver's license, to get a business certificate for opening a business, just the basic things that people have to deal with on a daily basis. You find that the system that we inherited worked more for the privileged, worked more for the elite. But if you can digitize many of these systems and put in the enablers to allow more of these systems to be built, then you remove the human interaction, and you don't need to know somebody who is a big person in an office to be able to apply for a passport or to be able to get a driver's license or get a scholarship and so on, or go to the port and you have to pay a bribe to do that. We needed to essentially remove a lot of the human interfaces so that we could deliver services to ordinary people devoid of corruption. And so you're trying to create more and more of an inclusive society. And this is what was the driving passion behind our government's setting up digitization as a major instrument for economic transformation.
It's timely in a way, and why do I say timely? The COVID-19 pandemic is something we have been dealing with, and Africa as a continent has faced its first recession in over 20 years. Now, the numbers look staggering for some countries. One of those is Ghana. In terms of growth projection, recovery, especially looking at the fiscal year 2021 going into 2022, 4.5%, 4.8%. You can correct me if I'm wrong there.
That's about the ballpark.
Higher than the average
Yes.
that AFDB has predicted. But key in this is digitization in terms of bridging this divide, the income inequality divide. Majority of the younger people, who we call the netizens, are in the e-commerce sectors that you're talking about. So how much of a contribution do you think digitization is going to play in ensuring that you not only get to the 4.5, 4.8 mark, but you surpass that and rebuild this income inequality and social divide?
Thank you very much, Arnold. I think you are very right that one of the consequences of the COVID-19, you saw our growth come down to 0.9% in 2020. And we were one of the few countries actually that recorded positive growth. But in that context, we've also seen a recovery taking place. And as we expect to hit about 4.6% next year, and hopefully we will maintain it over the medium term. But one of the reasons we think that we didn't get as badly hit as other countries, because we already started our digitization processes much earlier. And so many people were still able to work from home in this context, but nonetheless economic activities slow down. But we expect, as we go forward in the recovery process, digitalization is going to be very, very key in helping us grow. People are selling on the internet, WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. There's a lot of economic activity taking place there, and people are creating jobs. Young people who cannot actually afford to go and rent shops or build shops are able to do business over the internet. I mean, of course, Africa as a whole is seeing a boom in e-commerce, for example, whether it's the transport business in Ghana. You're seeing digitalization play a role in people being able to eke out a living, notwithstanding the COVID-19 pandemic. But we are still in the process of trying to get back onto the growth trajectory, and other policies will complement the digitalization drive, industrialization, agriculture, and so on.
One of the policies, great that you bring it up, is internet access, smartphone access. The numbers are still not the best.
That's true.
What's the plan?
Well, if you look at the internet penetration in Ghana, internet penetration stands about 50%. In 2017, we were at 27%. So we are making progress, and where we need to really emphasize and where government is placing efforts, our President Nana Akufo-Addo is very passionate about bridging the digital divide in terms of rural and urban access. And we have a project which is going to be manned by the Ministry for Communications and Digitalization to bring in more rural telephony and more rural access to the internet. So it is a work in progress, but there is a plan that the gap seems to be more in the rural areas than in the urban areas, and we've got to cover that. But we are making progress in internet penetration.
President Nana Akufo-Addo is passionate about that rural gap. You're passionate, and I'm taking it back to 2017. You were passionate about land digitization. Yes. Now, Ghana would have been the second country behind Rwanda in having fully fledged digitization systems of the land. Land is the capital asset for any economy. Absolutely. Why is this important for you?
It's critical. I mean, if you look at any modern economy, the mortgage market is the core of many of the financial markets, and that's where a lot of wealth is held. And if you look at Ghana, for example, and a few other many other African economies, our land is not really playing the optimal role in the development process. So if you have issues to deal with title to land, transfer of land, and if an investor cannot come in and want to buy land and be able to be sure that this land is properly owned by such a person, then the development of a mortgage market is compromised because the basics do not exist for any type of a mortgage market development. And if you don't have a mortgage markets are the markets that you can really get credit for many other enterprises. And so once that is out, it becomes a very difficult process. So we have put a lot of emphasis on digitizing the Lands Commission, and I think the process is ongoing. We expect to finish it soon.
Soon. Could we have a timeline?
It's difficult to give a timeline. For all the projects we have done, it's sort of, you try to do it in the best time frame that you can. I've been trying to give timelines on various projects, but we'll see as soon as possible.
Talking about timelines, one other important one that happened was the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. Yes. Ghana, one of the first 13 members to quickly sign on. Again, operationalization happened 1st of January this year. And key to AFCFTA happening is the digitization of things like the Ghanaian card, e-passports, and the likes. Right. Easy access movement, right? Let's have Djibouti to Dakar movement as easy as possible. AFCFTA and digitization intertwine. How much potential does this have, not only for Ghana, but not only for ECOWAS, but for the continent as a whole?
I think it's massive. I mean, of course, you're talking about a very large market. But as we speak, intra-African trade is around 20%. On a good day, you see what I mean? And in Asia, for example, intra-Asian trade is about 60%. So there is this big gap, and therefore one of the areas where we could essentially help accelerate the intra-African trade is to deal with payment systems, and digitize the whole process. Thankfully, Afrexim is leading the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, this called the PAPS, and that particular project is going to be very, very key because you can see payments and settlement in local currency across the various countries, and we are hoping that will catalyze trade on the continent. And because once you have platforms, whether it's e-commerce and whatever, settlement becomes a bottleneck, and we have 42 different currencies in the continent. We have 4 different exchange rate regimes in the continent, and so if we don't have a good payment and settlement system, it's just difficult to get the trade going. So I'm very upbeat on the payment and settlement system that the Afrexim Bank is working together with the central banks. And of course, this has high-level support amongst the authority of heads of state and government of the African Union to push this. And I think that will help. Of course, with travel, we've got to make travel much, much easier, especially air travel. And I'm always a passionate advocate of open skies in the continent. I still think that we've got a lot to do so that travel within the continent can be much easier. Within ECOWAS, for example, we have the ECOWAS card, where travel, for example, in Ghana, our national ID card has had to be consistent with the ECOWAS standard. So if you look at the Ghana national ID card, you'll see ECOWAS on it. which means that it is an e-passport that you can use to travel within ECOWAS, right? So that is there. For us, we are also activating our e-passport so that we can, it can be verified in different airports around the world, starting sometime next year. So, but within Africa, it would be very, very good for us to have ease of travel. ECOWAS is doing it. I know the East African community is also doing something similar, but we have to do something that is integrated so that the movement of people as well as goods can support the AFCFTA project.
Key to all the things you mentioned is leadership. One step forward, it always feels like one step forward, 4 steps back.
That's right.
How do we do this on a consistent basis?
I think you are you've touched on a very important point, because it's important that you have leadership, selfless leadership, because for what I've been looking at this whole issue, why we've taken so long, 60 years after independence, to really address some of the fundamental issues that I've been talking about, the systems, why we've lived with all these problems for so long and not really had that leadership to solve these problems. Our leadership has tended to focus on crisis management. Successive governments is like, oh, well, oil prices have gone up, you have a crisis, commodity prices, and political instability, macro instability. That seems to be the focus, crisis management. We've not looked, leadership hasn't focused on the underlying system that drives economic activity. And so when you look at this question, you need to think about the future. For the politician, generally, the horizon is so short. You are in office for 4 years. And if you don't put the country ahead of your own political exigencies, you will do what gets you elected, right? I'll build the bridge and I can point to a bridge, or I'll build a road and I can point to a road. And so you are in that type of mode of economic development. But if you have to put in the systems for digitization, that infrastructure is soft infrastructure. You're building a national ID card, you're building a digital address system, you're doing all sorts of things that may not be visible, but is much more important but it takes also time to manifest. The benefits take time to manifest. And so if you look at the political horizon and you're like, okay, am I going to do all these projects? And then maybe I cannot go and campaign on them. Or do I do the projects that are visible? Generally speaking, there is a sense that you will rationally maybe move. But if you have leadership, you have selfless leadership and far-sighted leadership, I think this is what my president, Nana Akufo-Addo, is demonstrating, that let's do the hard stuff. Let's fix this system. Let's build a new system based on the instrument of digitization and leave that as a legacy for the people. And this is why we are doing national ID cards, digital addresses, and all of that, because those are the things that we haven't done for a very, very long time. And we are now able to do it and use that to underpin our growth process.
The things we've talked about so far require one key component, which is skills. And especially among young people. Now, education systems on the continent have not been able to evolve as fast enough. We missed the first industrial revolution. Yeah. We missed the second. We missed the third.
Yes.
We're talking about leapfrogging into the fourth industrial revolution. Key component to that is STEM education.
Yes.
Where does Ghana stand in regards to this?
Yes.
Where do you stand in regards to a better education system?
It's critical. In fact, this is where the president, Nana Akufo-Addo, has made education a centerpiece of our government program. And this is why we have free senior high school education in Ghana, because so many people were being left out because they couldn't afford. And so we've been able to do that. But beyond the free senior high school education, you've made the point quite rightly that, you know, we missed the Industrial Revolution. Some say we missed the Agricultural Revolution as well, and missed the Industrial Revolution and missed the ICT revolution. And now we are in the fourth Industrial Revolution. I think that there is a sense amongst us that we should not miss this one as well. I mean, the fourth Industrial Revolution is a data revolution. It's a data revolution, and it's a youth revolution. It's their revolution in a sense. We are a very youthful population in Ghana and Africa as a whole. And so, you know, to participate in this fourth industrial revolution, the skill set must be there. From our point of view, we are focusing a lot on TVET education, technical and vocational education, which is also free, so that we can encourage people to go in and also invest in the infrastructure to build those skills. And in fact, I made a point the other day that our government, the government of Nana Akufo-Addo, has done the biggest investment thus far in technical and vocational education since independence. The infrastructure that we're putting in place. So we're very confident that we've got to do that and do the skills set and allow people to acquire the skills. Otherwise, you will have this divide and this inability to really internalize the benefits of the fourth industrial revolution that are out there. So we're very cognizant of the need for the skills and very proactive in trying to make sure our youth get the skills.
Enough about what is being done.
Right.
Your Excellency, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, who are you?
Well, a Ghanaian, an economist, who is also a politician. Basically, who's vice president of Ghana, you know.
I thought, you know, it could be an African as well, son of the soil.
Of course, it goes without saying. As a Ghanaian, I'm right on the continent. Yes.
You've had quite the journey. Started out as an economist. What has been your journey thus far? What are those things that led you to be the person that you are today?
Well, I think that, you know, I was born in the northern part of Ghana, generally the poorer parts of the country.
Is that near Tamale?
Tamale, yes. Yeah. I was born in Tamale.
Okay.
You know, I went to school in Tamale, then went to England to do my undergraduate and master's, and then went to Canada to do my PhD, and then taught in the US. But I was always, I was teaching economics and development economics as a professor at Baylor, and I always wanted to get back home. That was always in my mind. So in the year 2000, I came back home. And the whole idea was to come and contribute and give back to the country that I owed so much to. So I ended up at the central bank as a senior economist. And within 6 years, I rose to become deputy governor of the central bank. And I never really considered a career in politics until the president, who at the time was opposition leader, very kindly offered me the role as a running mate. I was very destabilized internally when the offer was made, but I thought through it and thanked him very much and decided to leave the central bank and come into politics, because I felt that if we were successful, I could use that platform to bring change to the country.
So you left inflation and figures to deal with more what we think are more speeches. But You mentioned one thing, your teacher at heart. Now, teachers tend to have habits, nitty-gritties, and with that, principles. What are some of those key principles you think are part of your day-to-day life that you wish a 17-year-old you knew?
Well, I think that in terms of, having goals is very, very important. But more importantly, in the world that we live in, I think that you should analyze issues based on data. I think that it's very, very important that we look at things critically, generally, and not just make pronouncements which are up in the air. My training as a teacher, as a researcher, basically says you should, investigate issues and analyze issues based on data and make pronouncements and take decisions based on it. And I think it's very, very important for me in that way. And of course, trying to make sure you carry people along with you and don't impose. Because if you have, as a teacher, if people don't understand something, you have to take your time and explain it to them and carry them along and get it. And it's the same thing when you are in life, whether it's at home or you are in politics, you have to carry people along.
Your day, I don't know what time it starts, but could you just quickly take us through what a day in the office of the Vice President is like?
It depends on what the particular day is. If I come in on a Tuesday, for example, I'm doing economic management team meetings. As a vice president, I chair the economic management team. And so I will be in economic management team meetings for maybe half the day for that period, depending on what invitations I have to respond to or meetings. It's a very fluid. There's so many things at different times that come into the schedule, or the president has assigned you something to do. So it's between meetings and functions and so on that you hold in the day.
So the history is more likely to predict our future.
Always does.
Your Excellency, I need to let you go. 2024, should we expect you back here?
2024, well, I really don't know anything about 2024.
I think we'll leave this to God.
Let's wait and see what happens.
Let's leave that to some of the gods to see what they're telling us.
Right.
Thank you for your time, Excellency.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Arnold.
A man of great hearts, a man of great talents, but clearly a man who has Africa at heart. That was the Vice President of Ghana, His Excellency Mahamudu Bawumia, speaking to us in this CNBC Africa special on matters all the way from ECOWAS to the digitization agenda in the country. Now, if you want to comment on this topic or anything else that you saw on the show today, tweet us at CNBC Africa or tag me directly at The Real Kwizera. Have a great rest of your day.